The Israeli military has been increasing its military pressure on the Gaza Strip for the last few days, and has moved into parts of the eastern part of Gaza City, to Khan Yunis and into Rafah, and is clearly taking as much territory as it can under its control before maybe it's forced into a ceasefire next week. And the idea of a ceasefire next week, being driven from Washington, as we know, is being pushed by President Trump. So next week, Netanyahu, Israeli Prime Minister, goes to Washington, and a lot is clearly going on behind the scenes, both with the Israelis and through Qatar and Egypt with Hamas. And President Trump now thinks that he has a realistic prospect of producing a 60-day ceasefire, the terms of which we've seen before. Basically, the release of all hostages, the withdrawal of Israeli forces substantially from Gaza, and the beginnings of some sort of political process to talk about what comes next in Gaza. Well, there are a lot of details to work out. Would all the Israeli hostages be released? Would all Israeli troops withdraw from Gaza? When we think about Gaza, the Israelis have always said we have to keep some troops in the two vital corridors in Gaza. So the Philadelphia corridor in the south is really important to us because that's the border with Egypt, and we have to have control of that in order to make sure that stuff doesn't get smuggled through the tunnels. And we have to have control of the Netzarim corridor to actually control the difference between the north and the south of Gaza and what happens there. Meanwhile, the population have been pushed towards Al-Mawasi, this area down in the southwest of the whole strip. We don't know what the Israelis will say about the need for their troops to stay there, but they say that some will have to stay there. And even if they get those details sorted out, and what happens to the humanitarian aid operation, which has reached ridiculous proportions in terms of its inability to feed the 2 million people in Gaza, even if they get to that, then Netanyahu has got real problems with his right-wingers in the cabinet. So Itamar Ben-Gvir and Bezalel Smotrich are two ultimate right-wingers who say that they will not settle for any peace deal. They won't go for any ceasefire in Gaza because they think that Israel has got to maintain all of its positions. It's got to actually achieve all of its objectives in Gaza before they can stop fighting. And it's not clear if Netanyahu agreed to a 60-day ceasefire, whether these two members would stay in the cabinet and maintain the government. Netanyahu could probably just about carry on without them, but it would be very difficult, and this would become an immediate new political crisis for him within his own ruling coalition. Meanwhile, the IDF say that they've picked up a group of Iranian saboteurs or intelligence officers inside Syria. I mean, Iran, huge country, of course, operates its militias in Iraq and Syria, the groups that it sponsors. And the IRGC, the Iranian Republican Guard group, is still pretty active. And the IDF say that they've picked up individuals in Syria bent on something or other. We don't know where in Syria at the moment they were picked up or what the circumstances were, but it's entirely logical that they would be. The IRGC is still operating. They're still obviously trying to reconfigure themselves after the problems they suffered with all of the attacks of that 12-day, so-called 12-day war of Israel on Iran. And meanwhile, the Iranians themselves, Khamenei and President Pezeshkian, are obviously trying to restructure their government. More than 30 key individuals were eliminated during this 12 days of Israeli attacks, and undoubtedly it will take some time for the Iranians to really work out the response. So the fact that they haven't said or done very much since those attacks is no indication that they don't intend to. It will take time for them to get their governmental structure together. That's obviously what they're trying to do. But one group being picked up in Syria is only an indication of the fact that the Iranians are trying to see how much of their network across the whole region is still active. I think we'll see more of that.